Happy Wednesday, family. It's WWT Live. And what else is there to talk about but the Tuesday Night War? Who won between AEW Dynamite and NXT? We've got that and a full deep dive when we come back.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
Wednesday, family, and welcome to another edition of WWT Live as part of Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. I am the professor. They call me Gerard Bonner around these parts. And yeah, you know what? There's never a dull moment in the world of pro wrestling. And certainly last night may have been one of the brightest, if we're completely honest. We'll get into all of the things connected to what was indeed the Tuesday Night War. But I am not alone. Oh, no. He's come from the streets just to hang out with us here at WWT Live. He is the official People's EST of WWT. What's going on, good brother?
It's official? Yeah, it is official.
It is official.
You can travel by sky. You can run miles, walk backwards, count your 1, 2, 3s, but you can't spell Women's Wrestling Talk without the EST.
Well, I'm here for it. There is absolutely EST right in the middle of Women's Wrestling Talk. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a good Wednesday. I'm actually happy to be back, you guys. If you guys been around the past 2 episodes, I had different backgrounds, but we're back home in our normal background after a just call it a tumultuous weekend. I haven't stopped moving for the past 5 days.
So that means after this, hopefully you'll be able to find some rest.
Apparently not, because I was signed up for whatever is WWT After Dark. So that is a plug for you guys. In just a few brief hours, we will be going WWT After Dark, whatever that means. But I've been told that you don't want to miss it because there'll be no recaps. There will be no viewership of it afterwards. It's just there one time and it's gone.
Wow.
So I don't know.
Well, this gets interesting. And of course, because of what happened last night, there's no wrestling for you to compete with tonight. So you can absolutely tune in 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific on Twitch. It's not even on YouTube. It's happening exclusively on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/WW Talk Pod. So make sure you're checking it out. And while you're checking things out, that amazing QR code in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, you can simply scan that for all of the latest WWT merch, and there is a lot of great redesigned merch there you guys are absolutely going to enjoy. So by all means, definitely check it out. Okay, so you guys came here for the conversation about the Tuesday Night War, which took place last night, as it was Title Tuesday for AEW. And it was a supersized edition of NXT. So, would you like to break the news? Because I know people are going to ask who won. We'll obviously talk about the details. But if you want to do that, you can do it. If not, I'll be glad to do it.
You know what? I'll defer to you because I know you probably saw both shows. I only saw portions of one, but I was following along majority of the night to see the surprises, to see all the news, but I know it was a monumental Tuesday night, but I just got home yesterday.
For sure. It was definitely one of the biggest Tuesday nights in recent memory. And certainly you could argue one of the biggest nights on television all year long for pro wrestling, as AEW's Dynamite and WWE's NXT went head to head. At the end of the day, man, oh man, oh man. NXT pulls out a massive win with one of its largest viewerships ever. The number comes in at 921,000 viewers. And last week had 857,000 viewers for NXT. So NXT is cooking and cooking with hot grease. AEW Dynamite pulled in 609,000 viewers. The irony of this, if you remember these numbers at all, and I'm a numbers freak because I'm a math major, These look like the numbers from the Wednesday Night War, except in reverse, right? It used to be Dynamite that would come in with the 924,000 viewers and NXT that would come in with 609,000. But yeah, the numbers were reversed and it was crazy in every sense of the word. WWE's NXT took the win. And when I say in every sense, I mean in the ever coveted 18 to 49 demo, they won that. If we're talking about in the overall cable ratings, NXT came in 5th on cable last night. Dynamite came in 7th, and that is behind Major League Baseball and the NHL that took the top 4 spots. And then, of course, if you're talking about the socials, all deal last night on X. We kept seeing throughout all things AEW that indeed the number one trend was NXT. So
I believe the highest segment was also the talking segment with Cody, Ilya, and Rhea Ripley and Dominic, which I think that pulled in, I want to say it was like in the high 900s, 950,
wow,
something like that.
That's highly possible. That is high. I haven't had a chance to look at that breakdown of the numbers yet. But what I want to do is we're going to start on the AEW side first and show them some love and talk a bit about what happened on Dynamite, because it's interesting. And I've got a theory that hopefully by the end of this, I'll be able to pull to. So Dynamite had a big night planned for last night. 3 title matches, which included the AEW Women's World Title, the AEW International Championship. And then, oh yeah, AEW decided to do a buy-in last night. So a pre-show of sorts that featured the Ring of Honor World Champion, Eddie Kingston, defending against Minoru Suzuki. So yeah, they really pulled out all the stops for Tony Khan's birthday. Couple of big ticket items coming out of last night. For one, we have a new AEW Women's World Champion, and we need to spend a little bit of time talking about this, as Hikaru Shida defeated Saraya last night to become the first ever 3-time AEW Women's World Champion. So before we dig into the rest of the results, obviously we're women's wrestling talk. This was the women's match of the night for sure. What do you think about this? Because it was just at All In London barely 6 weeks ago that Saraya won the AEW Women's World Title, got a successful title defense against Toni Storm at Grand Slam Dynamite. But here we are, and we've got a new women's world champion. And AEW said, "What do you make of this, man?"
I'm gonna have to check with my statisticians in the comments and see, is this the shortest women's title reign in AEW history?
I would think that this is a yes. That is a
yeah,
yes.
It's very interesting because there was all the Saraya was a very, let's call it the divisive, polarizing choice to make champion for all reasons, IWC, but she has the marketability behind her as well ever since she debuted. So to have that short of a title reign, it makes me think that this was just booking for the sake of booking and trying to garner some social media engagement, trying to garner some reactions to something possibly nobody thought would happen. I don't see the storyline there unless it's just like, hey, Saraya's transitioning because Tony is so hot right now. We want to put the belt on Tony. I really don't get it, because it doesn't do the division any service, even though despite Saraya being polarizing, like every title reign we've seen for the most part has been lengthy.
Yeah, you're right. And I want to get to some of these comments quickly. Bobby, good to see you. Dylan, always a pleasure. Good morning. Let's see. Blue says, I couldn't keep up switching back and forth. I was drawn in on NXT by a landslide. Welcome to life in the Attitude Era, right? Because that's what used to happen between Raw and Nitro,
with
where
no
we had
DVRs.
with no
DVRs. None of that.
Maybe
last button on the remote.
Right. Maybe you'd get lucky and had a VCR and might be able to tape one. But
Maybe
Yeah,
you
it
had a
was.
room with multiple TVs and you ran from room to room, but
That was an option as well. It was tough times though, for sure. Bobby says, "Did you see Karrion Cross? Do you guys see Karrion Cross being at Halloween Havoc since Scarlett will be at Halloween Havoc with
it's interesting
Shotzi?"
take.
That's a possibility. Of course, we'll get to those announcements about Halloween Havoc in a little bit. Ron, good to see you as always. And interesting take. I don't feel that Saraya. I don't feel that Saraya doesn't hold that title again. So you think she will get the title back? I want to make sure I'm understanding the comment.
That's the way
Um,
I read it. But so a reaction for the sake of a reaction. It's the
well,
way
see,
I take it.
I actually have a slightly different take on it. My take on it is, for one, I don't know, number one, that Saraya has moved the needle that much as the women's champion. I feel like it was a great moment in London at All In. One thing she'll be able to say, hey, after all that happened to me, I was able to come back and win a world championship in my home country. I think that's a moment that, you can't afford to wait on. It also makes me wonder, what is the condition of Saraya? That was the big message to me. Maybe Saraya isn't as ready to handle the vigorous rigors of AEW as she may have thought. That's what I started wondering, because I feel like this is the shortest title reign in the women's division's history. And, it seemed like something else had to be going on with Saraya for this. I mean, think about it. Their women's matches, well, really all of the matches in AEW tend to be much more physical than WWE style. And the women definitely tend to go hard. And so I just wonder if Saraya was in a space where she was saying, hey, you know what? Hey, I wanted to check it off. I checked it off. That's cool. Because here's the deal. Saraya is going to be Saraya with or without the women's world title. She doesn't need that to be the star that she is. And, I just feel like there's more that's going on. And I don't think it's bad storytelling. I think Saraya may either be hiding an injury, or she may, just not be physically well enough to carry the rigors, perhaps, for where they're going in the women's division. That's my take on it. But I'd love to see what you guys are thinking in the chat as well. Jeffrey, good to see you. Jeffrey says, I think it was to give her a title in Wembley. I totally agree. Ron says, I don't think she's healthy. Yeah, I think that's kind of the thought there. And Jeffrey also says, I didn't see this reign coming to an end this quick. I didn't. I certainly
No,
pegged
not at all.
Saraya winning this match. So it's pretty shocking, and it definitely has to be, I think, something else going on. But speaking of quick title reigns, such could also be said about the AEW International Championship, as that title changed hands last night. Now, here's what's interesting. It was advertised as Rey Fenix defending in a rematch against Jon Moxley from Grand Slam Dynamite. Well, we get there, and Jon Moxley still hasn't been cleared. So the former champion who never got a rematch, Orange Cassidy, gets the rematch. And what do you know? Orange Cassidy regains the international championship by defeating Phoenix. Phoenix certainly seems injured as well. And it's interesting. They have publicly started talking about this idea of the international championship being cursed because of injuries happening to people. I'm not sure that that's necessarily accurate. I mean, if you defend your title 31 times like Orange Cassidy did, obviously you're going to rack up an injury or two.
Right.
But I think they're obviously referencing Pac, the first champion, then going to Moxley, now potentially to Phoenix. I guess two questions to start. Number one, your thoughts on Orange Cassidy regaining the championship. And number two, do you agree with some of these assessments about the AEW International Championship?
No, I don't agree with them. I think it's too early in the genesis of the title to make those type of claims. But it does make me wonder that if Moxley was set to compete, would they have still pulled the title off Phoenix? Because that's another short title reign. And I think for somebody like Rey Fenix, who's been there since the beginning for AEW, namely a tag team specialist, kind of branching out on his own, not as popular as is as his brother.
Hmm.
You'd want to see him kind of have his run because you can see that in his character and in his in-ring capabilities. But it's just interesting, and it makes you think: why would you just not keep the title on Orange the whole time, unless we're trying to spam title reigns, which you know is a thing. Give Orange more title reigns. I think Orange is pretty much chiseled and cut for this title. I
Hmm.
think it works. I think everything surrounding his character works for this title. And it led to a lot of great television in recent months, which is probably why they wanted to pivot back.
Hmm. Yeah, I would certainly agree. I definitely think he has really added definition to this championship. He has really made it a thing. And I certainly wasn't ready for him to lose the title, even though he held it almost 300 days, you know. And so there's some interesting comments here in the chat. Boza is here. How are you? Boza says it was random. I wonder if Mox was cleared, would he have gotten his belt back? You know, it's interesting. I feel like, it was a very clear audible that was called at Grand Slam Dynamite. And my understanding is that it was called by Moxley, not necessarily by the referee or anyone in the back. So I'm sure that there were people in the back who were as surprised as fans were that Rey Fenix won. With that said, I don't think that they were going to take this mishap or mistake, and I put that in air quotes, and necessarily run with it. Though we got a couple of cool matches from Phoenix, I'm not sure that that was ever initially the design. And so I think with Moxley, if he couldn't be cleared, you right the ship by putting the title on the person who's really defined the title, and that's Orange Cassidy. And it made sense because he never got a rematch. So I'm with it. I think this is interesting. Jeffrey, that's funny. John isn't going to get that vacation with Renee. I don't know if he's ever going to get that vacation with Renee. He
The
has
tickets have
been
been canceled.
right. He has been the workhorse of AEW now for quite some time. What's going on, Eric? So Jeffrey says, did they know Mox wasn't cleared in time? I feel like this was one of those scenarios where, they made the call because it may have been where he was supposed to be clear by that time. Boza has an interesting point and says, I wonder how much wondering they had. We knew he was still DQ when he couldn't fight Nick Gage on Sunday at GCW. Yeah, so I wonder if it was one of those things like, how you give an anticipated date of your return because everything should be good to go by then. And, they went on and advertised the match. And then, of course, day of, he wasn't cleared. So it what it does make me think is that concussion that he suffered was pretty serious if
Yep.
he's still not cleared a few weeks afterwards, and they really can't afford to play games with that. So
You
it's
can.
it's yeah,
Those
you sure.
anticipatory dates are usually very, very inaccurate.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Yeah, well,
inaccurate. We talk about major injuries.
yeah, because what you can't do is control how the body heals.
Yeah.
You just can't control that. You do all you can to help heal, but you can't control whether or not you'll be healed and good to go. So one of the other elements that happened, and there was a lot that happened last night on Dynamite. Excuse me, wow, I didn't even mean to say that. Adam Copeland, the Rated R superstar, battling Luchasaurus in the main event last night. It was his official AEW in-ring debut. And I'm intrigued to talk about that. I should have mentioned, though, how the show started, which I felt like was a very strong start for Dynamite. Bryan Danielson and Swerve Strickland in a great, great match. They had, obviously, the first 30 minutes commercial free. Danielson wins and will go on to face Christian Cage for the TNT Championship Saturday night on Collision. But yeah, let me ask before we summarize the whole show, let's get your thoughts on this match that we're looking at now with Adam Copeland and Luchasaurus. What are your thoughts on this being the main event of the night, and how do you think Copeland looked in this one?
Well, just seeing what I've read, I got to go back and watch the full match. And it seems like, well, obviously you want to position Adam Copeland in that high light, and He's a new shiny toy. I'm pretty sure he performed very well, but this was like the ratings war
Sure.
show. So starting the show with Cage versus, sorry, Cage. No, actually, no, Christian Cage did start the show.
He did. He
Um,
did.
and he opened up with that beautiful promo, kind of implying that he was the reason that they were commercial free. Spot
Mhm.
on, perfect. Then you go into Danielson and Swerve, which I think Swerve should have won just with all the
I agree.
momentum, if I'm being honest. But
I
I
agree.
get it. There's certain characters in AEW that are just going to go over. That's just the nature of the business. But
Mhm.
excellent match from start to finish, and I think it kind of really puts Swerve in that main event stratosphere that he needed, fighting a character like Brian Danielson, that we know is on the downturn of his career. But
Mhm.
I think everything that's going on with Adam Copeland will only get better.
Okay.
I think for
Okay.
somebody who has been loud and vocal about the first time evers and the dream matches on this run, I think you're going to see a lot of greatness out of him
Mhm.
as he closes this chapter.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see a lot of greatness, and I think we're going to see it frequently. Like, when I say frequently, meaning I don't think they're going to wait very long to pull certain triggers with him because, for however long this contract is signed, I think they also have to look at physically what he can do
Yeah,
and how much they wanna get out of him and how long it will take him to recover. Again, the AEW style is a bit more physical and intense than the WWE style. And so I'm interested to see how Copeland's body responds. Now, granted, he wasn't necessarily doing house shows on this last run with WWE. He wasn't necessarily at TV every week. Now, what I
and they
will
spaced
say,
it out. I think they wanted to stretch it out to say to protect him. But
right?
the counter to AEW is that they're going to want to get to these moments
Yes,
fast. They're going to build on
yes.
these moments.
And so it's going to be challenging because I'll say that I really want to see this particular story on one show and not both. And so seeing
Interesting.
this,
Okay.
yeah, I do. I want to see it just on Dynamite and or Collision, but one show, not both. And my reasoning for that goes back to something that I think we were talking about Monday. If not, I was talking about it on a different show. This idea that when you have an Edge come back and now you have people spread out from what was the soft launch for AEW's brand split. Now they're both showing up on both shows. Who is suffering from that, right? Who are the people that were being highlighted that aren't necessarily being highlighted anymore? And
Trickle down
so,
effect.
right, because again, there's only so many hours of TV to showcase. And if we now know that, okay, God help me, Adam Copeland is going to be in the main event space, whether that is a main event interview, closing the show in a match. Okay, so that means somebody else won't be. And so so to me, I'm just like, what are we going to have to do with this story to keep it interesting, between Copeland and Christian, considering that AEW isn't necessarily known for doing the long-term storytelling from a story that they have been privy to. They're good for picking up a story that has roots for 10 years ago, but in terms of taking their own story and slow cooking it, that there's not a lot of history around them demonstrating that. So I'll be interested to see how all of this plays out. But what I do think is interesting is that AEW programmed this match to go against Braun Breaker and Carmelo Hayes with John Cena and Paul Heyman at ringside. So I also think it's interesting to look at how this was programmed on both sides, right? So AEW starts with a Christian Cage promo and goes right into the first match of Swerve and Dan Brian Danielson. Lord Jesus, this is getting hilarious. Brian Danielson. But then that's countered by WWE launching with Cody Rhodes, 3 massive announcements into, their women's match of Asuka and Roxanne Perez. So here's what we'll do. since we spent some ample time talking about Dynamite, let's start talking about some of our takeaways from NXT. And then we'll talk about, okay, who made the smarter moves programming wise? Because I think that's a big part of this war as well. How you place one thing against another to kind of entice somebody to tune in to what you're doing. So quite
Or
a
how
bit, of
many
course.
rewrites you got the day of, like when you get wind of like how they're scheduling is like, okay, we're going to move this here, we're going to move this here. I wonder how many times that happened on
Well,
Monday or
and the
Tuesday.
other thing, and to your point, what I also think is different is, unlike the Monday Night Wars, particularly when WWE was taped, in this scenario, I'm not sure that either party had an idea of what the other one was putting up at a given quarter hour, with the exception of both brands announced their main events. That one of them being, Braun versus Carmelo, and on AEW side, it's Adam Copeland and Luchasaurus. So I think that's really interesting for both of them in terms of how they chose to program this show.
I think on paper they missed, because like
Which
when they announced it, when they announced Swerve versus Danielson, just on paper, it's like, oh, I want to see that.
Right.
It should main event, because like
Right.
we haven't seen it, unless we haven't seen it on AEW television. And it's like we've seen Braun versus Carmelo a couple times this year, so like
Yeah.
that would have made me naturally be like, hey, I got to go back and watch whatever's happening here. Especially because from another standpoint, you think that Swerve is going to be coronated with a win over Danielson, which is another big deal.
Yes. Given the fact that the TNT Championship main evented Wrestle Dream, you would start to think then that we're now looking at all things connected to the TNT Championship with main event tendencies. So definitely to that end, of all the matches that were announced, I could see Adam Copeland. If I'm programming it, I'm putting Adam Copeland and Luchasaurus at the top of the 9 o'clock hour, to kind of get a strong start to that hour, and then ending with Danielson and Swerve, because for that AEW fan base, that's going to be a match that they're going to want to tune in for.
Right.
Luchasaurus as a singles competitor is only in the main event right now because of Adam Copeland. And that's no knock, but in comparison to who else they had on that card, that's what makes sense. So at least to me.
Uh-huh.
So let's talk about a few things. Of course, NXT began with Cody Rhodes, who had 3 massive announcements, announcing first the men's breakout tournament, which will begin after the women's breakout tournament. We all correctly predicted that he announced the upcoming Dusty tournament, and he announced that LA Knight would be the special guest referee for the title match, the NXT title match, which that was thrown in there. The NXT championship defended as Ilya Dragunov battled Dirty Dom, which I thought was a pretty cool match to just throw in there. And then we find out that we get Cody Rhodes all throughout the night, as Cody ends up being the guest manager. Like, brilliant to me. Just a brilliant set of moves. And then that leads us into what has been the bread and butter for NXT, women's wrestling. We get the prodigy Roxanne Perez against Asuka, who has never taken an L in NXT, which that alone is an incredible stat. And yeah, man, what did you think of this as the opening match that ultimately ended up counteracting Danielson and Swerve?
I think it doubles down from what they did last week with all the women's wrestling viewership we got on last week's episode, picking up right where we left off, because they're strong there and they're flexing their strengths. But also, I'm always here for Asuka getting her flowers.
Yes.
I'm always here for that. Never take an L in NXT. The amazing streak she had as champion, and she's going against who a lot of people think got next up. But to finish off that match, and I know they're doing all the socials where they gave Asuka her old NXT title back, just beautiful to see. Especially for somebody who on main roster, I think deserves that much more. This was a beautiful reminder as to like what we knew Asuka as and what she is. And that's where I'm saying she gets to continue her story as well with what's going on with Kiana James.
Yeah. I completely agree with that, because that was pretty awesome. It was I think a necessary homecoming for everybody to remember exactly who Asuka is, because if you did not get to see NXT Asuka, do yourself a favor, go back on the WWE network on Peacock and just search for Asuka and NXT, and you will see things of beauty, because Asuka was insane. She could not be beat, had incredible matches. I mean, she was the one. There was no doubt about it. And so that was really exciting. So we go from talking about the other TK to the real TK. The boss is here. TK, how are you?
Man, I am tired. Girl's tired.
Yeah. Well, that's because you're out here changing the world, wheeling and dealing like you're Ric Flair. I mean, it's a thing. So, woo!
It is a thing. But speaking of that, I just wanted to, I'll be here for the rest of the show, but because I just want to see your face tomorrow, everybody who's in LA, definitely check out. Pound Town Wrestling happening tomorrow. So make sure you guys pull up to that if you can. So the announcement is, and you guys who are listening to WWT Live, you're the first to know. So if you can't come to LA, we are going to have a giveaway so you can watch the pay-per-view, which is going to be happening next Thursday. So WWT and Pound Town Wrestling are partnering together so we can give you the pay-per-view. Here's the thing. You have to like WWT, like Pound Town Wrestling, and share it with 3 people, and then we'll announce the winner. So there's that. Also, what's happening tonight, Said, who's going to be in the streets, and myself and Booney and the professor, who's going to be watching behind the scenes because he doesn't want to be part of it. We're going to talk about, I don't know what we're going to drink. I don't know.
Oh boy.
But it's going to be a situation. So definitely be there.
I don't know about no drinking, but I will be medicated. I don't know about alcohol, but yeah.
So wait, is this like Jey Uso, Cody Rhodes level drinking, or like what are we looking at here?
We'll find out.
Oh boy. Oh boy. And remember, guys, you can check it out on Twitch exclusively.
Only on Twitch. If you don't see it, you don't see it. After it's done, you might have an hour to catch it. But, we might have some special guests who may be debuting at Pound Town Wrestling drop in. We may not. So there's a lot of things happening, or not things happening. Come with your questions. If you have questions that you've been dying to ask me, but you think, TK is too professional, that's where you go to ask them. You can ask those questions at WWT After Dark, and I may answer them for you, because I know how people be thinking about me. It's okay, but you might get the real. You might. How
do they think about you, TK?
Oh, there's a multitude. It's like TK the Amazing and TK the Bitch. It's all it's all the things.
Oh,
well, we hear.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Disclaimer: do not ask me questions. I will answer nothing. I will just be
what? What? You're not going to
mute.
I refuse to be interrogated today. I refuse.
You guys are not going to interrogate Said. You might just ask, like He said, like, are you in the streets with anybody else? Like, those are questions the people want to know.
See, that's probably why it wouldn't be good for this show, because nobody's going to have those kinds of questions for me. Like,
I have so many questions, but because I have respect for you, and also it's like, period. I have respect for you that I don't go down the complete rabbit hole, and you're also married, so that's just a dangerous. I don't want anybody keying my car or being cussed out or anything. So just on a whole respect level, the level of questioning stays here, and you're pretty much an open book behind the scenes. Not in front of the scenes, but like, we know what you do. You wake up, you hustle, you take care of your child, you tell them to go forward. And that's there it is. Thanks, Dylan. Dylan's ready in the morning. Don't get fired now. You might want to watch it on your phone.
Great day in the morning. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, look at this. Okay. All right. Yeet. Okay. Yeah.
Jeffrey saying is Sexy Red didn't come out with the name. I mean, well, if you watch, so there's another thing. I actually meant to pull that picture. If you watch the video, watch the interview with me and Ariane Andrew, she talked about it and she said yes, it is because of Sexy Red. But if you think of pounding, and if you watch it, you're gonna see me like cracking up because she's like, yeah, pound in the ring, and I'm like totally thinking of something totally different. But if you think of pounding, that's what ground and pound, stuff like that.
Oh, ground and pound, got it.
Yeah, so it could have happened, but of course, Sexy Red. Dylan, yeah, come with the AfterBuzz question. I can answer the AfterBuzz questions as I am legally allowed to answer. But if you have anything like that will get me sued, we're not doing that.
Sounds like tonight's going to be a happening, an event, and we're just a couple of hours away.
Just a couple of hours away. So come with it. We will be talking wrestling, of course, but we'll be talking. Shoot, we could talk about Jada and Will. Like Jesus, what was that?
That's.
You guys need teasers for what people can see at Pound Town Wrestling tomorrow. As far as in-ring, as far as in-ring.
I can't answer that. I know. Well, we can confirm if you follow Sunny. Sunny is in LA, so Sunny, I'm not confirming because I'm not the card maker. However, if you put 2 and 2 together, Sunny's on the flyer and Sunny's in LA, so Sunny will definitely be there. As far as other people, I cannot say because that's not. I value friendships, so. You got to be there, or when the promo comes out. So be on the lookout for it. We're gonna put it on all our social media and all that stuff. Just make sure you're already following us. Make sure you're following Pound Town Wrestling. Make sure you're following Women's Wrestling Talk. Make sure you can even start now. Share with just 3 friends because I did put the promo out already. I mean the flyer already. So if you share with 3 friends, I'm gonna start adding your name to the list. So if you want to see that pay-per-view for free $99. Because guaranteed there will be some surprises. There's going to be some shenanigans happening tomorrow. There's going to be some shenanigans happening tonight on WWT After Dark. And then shenanigans happening tomorrow on Pound Town Wrestling Thursdays. I think, Sed, you're going to be at both, right?
I need to take my shenanigans nap then. That's what I need. Cedric is tired. And we'll see. I'm debating. I'm debating tomorrow night. But Cedric has never complained about going to Pound Town multiple times during the week. So we're gonna debate that.
So one of the other matches that happened last night on NXT was the Women's Breakout Tournament first round match. Lola Vice against Danny Palmer, and this graphic really says it all. What a kick in midair, such precision, right to the stomach in midair of Danny Palmer. Lola Vice, who I know is a big favorite for a lot of our folks in the chat, winning this match, moving now to the semifinals. And again, I think it's a brilliant move in a super stacked card to be able to have, again, what NXT is known for, which is their women's wrestling. And again, a great showcase to the women's breakout tournament. I thought that was pretty awesome. What do you guys think of this match?
Yeah, shout out to Lola. We actually posted something just like really cute that she posted, and that post went viral on Twitter. Wow. She reposted it, so shout out to her. There's so many things happening, and I actually spoke to Ariane about this in the interview, just as far as the rise of Black female wrestlers and the rise of female wrestlers in general. I think I said this on Monday or Friday that we are like, we don't want to overload folks with so many interviews, but we have like 10 interviews with different wrestlers that we haven't interviewed yet, banked. So it's just kind of one of those things that it's an amazing time. And it's like, if you think of, for instance, Total Divas, right? And Ariane mentioned that she only had 3 months of training when she started with WWE, right?
Wow.
And you have wrestling schools all over the place. So I was at Knox Pro Wrestling last week, and there's a whole bunch of ladies there, like just chomping at the bit. And I'm sure there are wrestling schools all over the place where I don't think it was as like that 10, 15 years ago. So you have wrestling schools all over the place and so much talent. Like I feel like every day that I pop on, I see that we're following a new wrestler, like, you know, from like CCW, from somewhere else. It's just like, oh my, there's just so much talent. And NXT, that's why I'm kind of almost, I mean, WWE's not even listening to me like that, but changing the name, because it's not the people who are coming in, it's you're not seeing them on TV. So the people who we do see on TV, they've got the stamp of approval from Shawn Michaels, like, all right, they can go on TV. They know the angles. They know the WWE way. So for it to be next up, it's kind of, you know, something a little, maybe changing to something a little bit different. But, you know, branding is branding.
Yeah, and I think that's also what they are starting to use Level Up for, is for those who, you know, are not quite ready for NXT television, but can get an opportunity to get in front of people, which I think is cool. And you're right, you know, just another great sign of the growth of women's wrestling. You know, PWI earlier this year announcing that they are expanding the PWI 150 to PWI 250. That's adding an additional 100 women's wrestlers. Now, we can remember, or maybe some people can remember, when there were maybe only enough for one women's match in a company, you know, or maybe there were 4 women and these 2 would wrestle this week and these 2 might wrestle next week. But to be at a space where in the wrestling industry, we're ranking 250 wrestlers, and that's not all of them. That is a wonderful place to be relative to the future of women's wrestling. And so that's really quite exciting, I think. And being able to see, you know, this crop of women in the women's breakout tournament, which I think is pretty awesome. You know, again, seeing how NXT has had these stellar numbers featuring women's wrestling recently is pretty outstanding to see. So really great news there. And of course, you know, we can't say enough speaking about women. So wait. Let me mention this, because this is one of those things that kind of slid in there last night, but is really big news. And that's this moment that happened between Ava and Paul Heyman, where Paul Heyman literally is kind of talking to backstage Ava about the potential of the bloodline. So TK, I got a pitch to you, because anytime we're talking about the expansion of the bloodline, this is an opportunity for you. What are your thoughts on this power move? As we've all thought, perhaps Tamina, perhaps, you know, Trinity, perhaps even Nia, but bypassing all of them to on camera talk to Ava? What are your thoughts?
Well, gosh, man, I hate being this person. I think it's a good play. Whether they're going to do it correctly is a whole nother story. And I think there's just there's a certain, and even and when I say this, I include myself in this mix. There's a lack of understanding as far as Samoan culture that we're going with, and there has to be an understanding there that WWE is not really going to dive into. So that's one thing, because if they kind of dove into the history and all this other stuff, there could be even a bigger story. Like there's still a big story, but it could be a bigger story than what it is. So I'm definitely for it. I'm interested to see how it's going to play out, because there's things going on in the background that it's just kind of like if you guys, let me show you the table. Let me show you the table that I'm referring to. If you guys remember, I've been talking about the Samoan Dynasty since AfterBuzz days, and what I think we all envisioned, or the people who are, no, is that the one? No, this is one that we all envisioned. I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do with it. It was a nice play, but I don't know if you guys talked about it at the beginning of the show. WWE went there to literally like crucify AEW. So like they literally took why not? That was when we first had her, when she first joined WWE. That's essentially what we thought. Or this is the beginnings of, we can go back to Rock when he was in Colorado a couple weeks ago, saying that he was supposed to be at WrestleMania. It didn't happen. Now it may or may not happen because we did see him appear. I mean, we all know that's his daughter. So there could be another storyline angle in play. But also with WWE and with the Samoan dynasty, we might not be satisfied. So I don't know if that was a really answer. That was very roundabout because there's certain things I can't say, but yeah.
Sad. What do you think?
I like it. I think it's for all reasons of being petty and just putting that in atmosphere just so we can talk about it like we are. Great. But it's also a really good tease to kind of get to where you want to go within this Bloodline saga. If you want to pull the, like, Michael Cole, Ether, and Cody on Monday night just happened. So you have that.
Right.
You also have Dwayne just showed up a few weeks ago. Now you got Paul talking to his daughter. You can pull that trigger. It's keeping our minds engaged. Mm-hmm. And we know all roads are going to lead through Roman. We just don't know which path we're going to take. This is another path we can take. And I think it's great. And also, we talked ad nauseum about the schism stuff. And I just thought it wasn't working, and it was anchoring so many different superstars that could be better served alone. This could be another way for Ava to reintroduce herself to the WWE audience and kind of get her character to kind of reach her trajectory. I think it's great.
Yeah, I really like this. I know when I saw this, I sat up immediately because I was just like, wait, I did not expect to see Ava in this conversation. Matter of fact, I think I forgot altogether. So again, this really puts us in a completely different space. And I mean, I can see the play. The play is super easy. We get Ava to get Dwayne's attention, right? And then he comes back and says, daughter, what are you doing? Like, Roman's not good for you. Blah, blah. Like, it's almost kind of the Usos battle that we've seen, but on a different level, because now you're talking father and daughter, which is a much different emotion to pull at,
Yeah, but if you do that, I feel like Rock needs to commit to, I mean, not like Ray and Dominic kind of did the blueprint of the family, like how it should be done. Mm-hmm. I mean, even Ric Flair and Charlotte, like Ric Flair spent some time, like, introing Charlotte, etc. So I feel like if The Rock is gonna commit to this, then it can't be a one-off. It can't be like we get Ava to this point and now The Rock disagrees, and now he comes, he says something, they have a battle, and then that's it. And I think Jeffrey's like, what did you say, Jeffrey? You're not interested? I forgot what you said. When is it gonna be over? I mean, it's not for everybody. There are people who, they're over it. However, I make a reference to this. I'm sure everybody, like their grandmother or their mother, watches Young and the Restless. Victor Newman's still alive. When is that going to be over? That has been going on for 50 plus years, if not more. Years. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I feel like he's a vampire. He is just never, he's going to be there forever. So it's not for everybody, but that's the great thing about wrestling and soap operas. There's so many great storylines that, like, if Roman comes on and he's not your cup of tea, or the Usos are not your cup of tea, that's the time to go to the bathroom. That's the time to go and get popcorn. That's the time to go and, return phone calls. It's not one show with just them on. So I feel you can, because there's kids have kids, so there's all that.
Dylan, shame saying that Victor Kiriakis is greater than Victor Newman. I suppose I should give context. Victor Kiriakis was a major villain on The Days of Our Lives. Victor Newman, the major villain on The Young and the Restless. Don't ask me how I know this. But with all of that said, I am a bigger fan of Victor Newman than Victor Kiriakis, but that is a crazy analogy. I love that you brought that up.
I don't even know who Victor Kiriakis. My grandmother was a Young and Restless.
Yeah.
She watched it twice. It came on twice a day in Canada.
My grandmother. Yeah, my grandmother was a Days of Our Lives, and that's how I knew about Victor Kiriakis. But then my dad started watching Young and the Restless. Yeah. Probably way more information than any of you care about. But with all of that,
early on WWT After Dark. Jeffrey C.
there's
Victor's my guy. See?
There's your After Dark right there. Soap operas. But yeah, so okay. So we started, and there's still so many elements of NXT that happened. Let me ask this question before I go to this other question. And that is, there was also kind of a final reveal of these vignettes that we've been seeing that ultimately showed us Brian Pillman Jr., who has said that he is not going to take his father's name, but he's going to take, in his words, the name of the man that raised him. That last name is King. So I don't know if this means he's going to be Brian King or if he's just going to call himself King or whatever this means, but it seems official. Brian Pillman Jr. is in NXT. What are you guys thinking about this?
I mean,
I think they trademarked the name Lexus King, and it was floating around the Twitter parts, like Lexus King, I think is what it's going to be.
Okay.
But the thing that jumped out to me is they made him look so splitting image of his dad.
They did.
Like with the hairline, the beard line, like everything made it like spot on.
Mm-hmm.
So I think regardless of what his name is, you're going to thank Brian Pillman. And then for me, that's cool. So I hope it works. I hope it works. I'm rooting for him. I was a big fan of Brian Pillman growing up.
Yeah, according to Reddit, the Lexus Cake trademark was filed by WWE.
Well, and he's also changed. He's changed his Twitter handle. His Twitter handle is Lex is King WWE, and his name there is King. And his bio says, "I am nobody's junior." So yeah, pretty interesting. Lex is King. Pretty interesting.
I like it.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. And I think it's a brilliant way to rebrand. I mean, again, NXT's done a good job of recognizing, hey, we know our fans are intelligent. We know they know who this is. So let's put the story together and make it work. So the other piece, and again, so much happened with NXT, but we can't deny this parting shot that we got, that being The Undertaker putting the boots to Braun Breaker. With that said, I want to ask the question, how do you think, or what are your thoughts on the way that NXT put this show together, as opposed to the way that AEW put their shows together? And did the ratings reflect which was actually the better show last night?
Man, I feel like, and correct me because I'm trying to make a football reference, I feel like NXT was offense and AEW was defense, meaning that like they just kept on. And I'm also thinking of like a cooking reference. Like they kept on like adding to the pot. It's like you have a good lasagna, you have this basic lasagna, with the cheese, the sauce, all this stuff. But then you start adding the seasoning, and the seasoning is like the Jade Cargills. The seasoning is like Undertaker, like the seasoning is like Ava. Like it's you keep adding the seasoning, and to the point that when you have it, it's like this is the best damn lasagna that I ever had. And AEW was like that person who really can't cook, and they tried to add the seasoning. It was okay. Wow. It wasn't too salty, but it was just like, I'm gonna go over here to Auntie whoever who like just know who has the magic. It was just one of those situations where like AEW tried. I do love shout out to Tony for like, okay, you guys are doing this. Okay, we're gonna give you 30 minutes. Like he tried, but like it's almost like, again, another terrible reference. You trying to beat up your older sibling, but your older sibling has 5 years on you. Like you could try, but once they actually put that strength on you, it's a wrap. So it was good. I was watching both of them at the same time, which is a lot. But it was good. Wait, what
Boy, there's some funny things in there.
AEW was
Wow. One of y'all can read that one. Wow.
Okay. I mean,
After Dark, it started early.
I mean, I guess it has. It might start off. So here's another thing, y'all. You might want to go over to TikTok because our TikTok is popping too. We might I might start After Dark on TikTok a little bit earlier before WWT After Dark. So you might want to just be in the situations, put the notifications on. Might be sipping some things, might be having some chicken noodle soup. We'll see. We'll see.
With a soda on the side?
With the soda,
Hey,
with the soda on the side.
hey, I caught that.
Oh my god. I like the raisins ones, right?
Yeah, that's hilarious.
They
That's
did put raisins in
hilarious.
their potato salad. I mean, no, they tried,
Yeah.
and I can respect that.
Yes.
Like I said, I think we're, all the joking aside, and a lot of people who are fair, because you had a lot of people jumping on different bandwagons and stuff like that, and you definitely have a preference or not. But a lot of people were fair. This was just great for wrestling in general. Like this was so great that I forgot that I also had to watch BET Hip Hop Awards, which is also going around at the same time. So I had another screen going for another gig, and it's just kind of like I totally forgot that.
Yeah.
So I think this was just great for wrestling in general. When at NXT or I don't think they felt threatened. They were just like, we're just gonna make sure that we come out on top. So they put everything in there. So you watch that. And AEW is now, they're going back and forth, and it brought the caliber of both brands up. So you can appreciate that, because even if you watched one and then you watch the other, I know a lot of people who still watch both. And on a normal week, people don't watch both if they're not like, on that level where they're I'm watching everything wrestling. Like if you have if you live in your life and doing your things, you might catch NXT, and then you might catch the highlights on AEW somewhere else on Twitter or whatever. But I know a lot of people who just watched both because it was great television for both sides. So kudos to them.
Said, any thoughts on this?
Great show. I mean, I think my biggest takeaway is that last night was a major endorsement for who WWE is positioning as their next two big stars, in Carmelo Hayes and Braun Breaker. Pairing those two up with the legends, having possibly the greatest manager of all time on the show as well with Braun. You get the inklings of him being a Paul Heyman guy. Melo's getting the Cena endorsement. What they did with Cena and Trick, with them having their sidebar conversation about how did you know when you were next up.
Right.
Great stuff throughout the night. And I agree with TK's analogy. It's just like they kept sprinkling so many little things in there that we're going to talk about for the rest of the week and next week, because now you're allowing the casual fan who might only watch Raw or SmackDown to say, hey, when am I going to see those guys on Monday nights and Friday nights? And like, hey, that's the guy that Cena was with. You're going to start seeing those pictures floating around more. That way, that anticipation, when it's there, like you just know who those guys are. So I think it's great. We've been seeing a lot of the main roster integration this entire year, but that was next level. And I think that's what's really going to carry NXT for the next 12 months. Like, I truly believe we're going to see NXT brand supremacy with Survivor Series again at some point if we don't do War Games this year. And I think it's going to be positioned that way for a number of years, where you see people that are just getting drafted NXT. Like, NXT is just its own thing. And I think that's best for the brand of all three shows, because it'll never get diluted.
Yeah, it's extremely exciting. I feel like this may have been one of the most masterfully presented shows that WWE's ever done, because it was this seamless integration of stars from other brands, legends interacting with these new stars of NXT. And it's kind of going, whoa, I didn't even think it was possible to merge these universes like this, but it happened, and it happened in a brilliant way, in some cases that you didn't see coming, and they kept surprises for us. LA Knight showing up as the referee. I totally wiped the idea of Jade Cargill showing up. So when they added Jade, I was like, I mean, you talk about mashing your foot on the gas. Like, you just said, listen.
Yeah,
listen,
and
I also tweeted out their trial picture from years ago too.
Yes,
so like one of those full circle things.
Yeah, and the tweet and the post she posted with her in the phone, like, bro, like,
yeah,
whoever, because it's multiple people. I'm just kind of gauging how WWE works. It's multiple people, marketing, social media, all this stuff. I think they got a lot of people creatively to think of all these ideas, but whoever thought of that idea, bro.
Brilliant.
Because everybody's on Jade's teat right now. Like anything she posts, like she's there, it's news. So like whoever thought of that idea, it was perfect. And then to see her show up, like, you know, because we're like, is she gonna show up, or are they just saying this because we think she's gonna show up and we're gonna tune in? Like to see her show up in a totally different outfit. Not to say she has to be in the same outfit, but the outfit was just as banging as the one that we saw her on. Was it Saturday? Like. All she has to do is show up. Like, I feel like if she shows up just to random places, or we see her, you know, by the backstage or by the ring randomly for the next 3 months, I think we'd be good. We're not going to be clamoring.
Totally have the old Eva Marie gimmick.
She has the what gimmick?
She should totally have the old Eva Marie gimmick, where it's like you see her backstage and it's like, oh, she has left the building. She should. You can ride that for like 6 months.
Yeah.
I don't know about 6. I'll give her 3. I'll give her like till Royal Rumble.
Yeah, Royal Rumble, like, she's gonna be in the ring.
Yeah, we can't have a WrestleMania pass and she's just like, oh, there she is, just sitting there in Cincinnati randomly.
right. Like,
real life superhero, ain't no crime to fight.
I mean, there's that. I'm interested. I'm really interested on what they're gonna do with her, what they're gonna do with Ava. It's a really great time, and I think we've been saying this for ironically, since Vince, all the drama happened. Vince, was that last summer?
Yes, it was last summer.
Since Triple H has taken over, and you know, we had a blip where Vince came back, etc. But since he's taken over, like, wrestling has been really great. And then even with Tony Khan, you know, on the women's side, it's, you know, sometimes it's stagnant, but the fact that we have 2 brands, 2 promotions, and so much wrestling, like it's one of those things, like how could you not know what's going on?
Yeah, it's pretty brilliant. Well, with the mentions of the Royal Rumble tickets are going on sale, and we've got ticket information for that, which is kind of cool, because as you can see, the Royal Rumble is headed to Tampa, Florida. Pretty cool space for it to be. In terms of tickets, they go on sale next Friday. That's October the 20th, beginning at 10 a.m. Eastern. If you'd like to be a part of that, that'll be pretty awesome. There's also, of course, the on-location situation if you want to get a whole exclusive package deal, which, you know, they used to do the packages just for WrestleMania. Now they're doing them for pretty much all of the major events. So it's a real opportunity that's going to happen with that. So you can definitely check out Royal Rumble as we are moving ever closer to that. Also, you can see here, we've got the trailer, the official trailer for the Iron Claw has just dropped. This is the new movie about the Von Erich family. And this is a pretty big DJ Magic J, like you're right with us. This is a significant movie that's happening. I saw a tweet from Marshall Von Erich, who is the son of Kevin Von Erich. And his thoughts on the trailer was that, hey, you know what? This isn't 100% accurate because they didn't include my dad, of course, being Kevin Von Erich. However, there are some elements clearly they got right. And so, yeah, needless to say, this is going to be a must-see movie with a pretty incredible cast as well. So you'll definitely want to check this out. Zac Efron and Jeremy Allen White are playing Kevin and Carrie Von Erich, respectively. That's pretty wild. Holt McCallum, I can't say his name right. Holt McCallany, I hope I said it right. He's playing Fritz Von Erich. Also, MJF, the current AEW World Champion, is involved in this. I believe he's playing Lance Von Erich as well. So there are lots of people that are involved in this that you'll want to check out. And again, this movie is opening up in theaters Christmas week, December the 22nd. So if you've not checked out the trailer, please do, because trust me when I tell you, the Von Erichs were such an important element of the wrestling world, and really one of the first families of all of pro wrestling. Couple of quick birthday shout outs before we get out of here. Happy birthday to AEW commentator Taz, former ECW world champion, who is killing it, quite frankly, in the commentary booth. He has done a great job. Lots of experience, of course, in WWE, Impact, and, of course, on AEW in that space. And then happy birthday to Mommy. It is her birthday today. And Lord only knows how she could be celebrating. I mean, she has
Her
various.
comments are crazy.
They listen. If you want a great follow, check her out in those Twitter streets, because the things that she says, it's like, wow, absolutely wow. So yeah, with that said, that's gonna do it for WWT Live. Of course, we've got to get ready for After Dark. But before After Dark, said, how can the people reach you?
I just want to throw this out there real quick. We didn't get to it because I think I saw it just before we started.
Okay.
But Ronda Rousey pretty much hinted at her retirement on Instagram. She posted a picture of her at her ranch with her daughter saying, "Sorry, I couldn't hear you through my retirement." So that's going to lead to a lot of conversation and talking points that if it's literally done, what did Ronda mean for women's wrestling and the heights that she brought it to? And obviously this last run, if you were favorable to it or not.
This kind of goes back to soap operas and stuff like that. Like, it's one of those things where it's, yes, I'll take you at your word, but it's also wrestling. And, you know, and then I feel that going back to what you just said, what does it seem for her career? Like, is WWE going to do anything? Do they feel it wasn't like, if they don't do anything, does that signify that what she did, her coming, was kind of pointless? Like, that's kind of, you know, because think about it. When certain people leave, there's like a big announcement and they might have their last, like, I mean, I'm thinking of Mickey James, and I'm thinking of, like, you know, when certain people leave, they have this, there's stuff that happens, right? And then when other people leave, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, I haven't been with the company for blah, blah, blah. And the company doesn't even, like, there's no statement that was put out. Like, I don't know. It's underwhelming.
Some people just like to ride off into the sunset, I think.
Yeah, but Ronda, it's not people, it's WWE. Like, Ronda might, but WWE hasn't done anything. Have we seen WWE say anything?
No.
Well, I say, like, thank you.
Yeah.
You know, I
mean, they don't have to do it right away because maybe they're still holding out hope. But, like, this is like the other person, like, kind of closing the door. Like, you can come knock, and maybe they're still in a position where they're still knocking. But, like, maybe she's just like, yeah, nah.
Sorry,
you know, I also, it's tough because some of the people, you know, WWE hasn't always gone all out for people who have left or who have chosen to retire. They've really resolved that for those who they have felt like are major contributors, you know. So, you know, we first really started seeing these retirement celebrations for Ric Flair, you know, back when he lost his retirement match, his first retirement match, back against Shawn Michaels. And then, you know, it started becoming a send-off kind of thing. But it seemed to have only been really reserved for those who had lengthy careers and lengthy contributions. This might be unpopular to say, but I don't think Ronda Rousey falls in that category. You know, I think what Ronda Rousey did, she came in obviously with a great name, and that name brought some attention with her coming in for that Royal Rumble, you know, winning her first WrestleMania match at 34, that year where she, you know, won championships. By the time we get to 35, of course, she's in the WrestleMania main event. But at that point, at 35, she's not the hottest women's wrestler in the company. That's Becky Lynch. So, you know, there was so much more attention put on Becky Lynch because she was so hot. And Ronda never got as hot as she was when she first came in at that Royal Rumble. So even when she came back winning the Royal Rumble, you know, that same year Brock won the Rumble and everybody was kind of deflated because they're like, okay, we kind of know what's going to happen here. So I don't think that we've seen the level of contribution from a Ronda Rousey over an extended period of time that would warrant a Flair send-off, an Edge send-off, a Taker send-off. Now, we could also make an interesting argument because we didn't see send-offs for the Bella Twins. And if
Right.
we could make an argument that the Bella Twins' contribution was far more significant over a longer period of time, you know, in terms of what they did for women coming out of the ruthless aggression era, leading us into, you know, this era that we're in now, the introduction of the reality show with, you know, Total Divas, and how it really launched them and WWE into a space where WWE could actually embrace reality TV. You know, I think they did so much in terms of becoming mainstream stars and ambassadors for WWE for a while, that if anybody from the women's side deserved a proper send-off, we could make the argument that it's them.
I agree with you, but I also feel like so for instance, say Jade, she's with the company for 3 years,
Mhm.
right? I feel like if you made a huge deal on them coming to the company, like a public thing, then there should at least be like, I'm not saying, bring her into the middle of the ring and give her like her flowers, right? But at least a statement. Like if it kind of, yeah, I don't know. Like I think of like how Jade left AEW, right?
Mhm.
Like that could have definitely gone sideways quickly. Oh, I
Sure.
offered you all this money. Now you want to go to the enemy?
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm, mhm.
Like that could have went sideways
Sure.
super quickly.
Yeah.
So at least the statement saying that, like it's just because the nosy part, because there's and I was talking to a friend about this as far as wrestling journalism. We're in a very weird place because it's scripted, and then there's real life stuff that happens and contracts and stuff like that. And like, so the nosy part of me is like, well, what was this conversation like? Like, did they want her longer? And she's like, nah, I'm good. Or did she wanna go for another year? And they're like, no, we're good because there's a new company.
Hmm.
That whole UFC crossover, like, could she want to? I don't think she's gonna want to go back to UFC, but anything is possible. Like things change, life evolves. So I'm more curious as far as the behind the scenes, how it all culminated to now. 5 hours ago, she decided to put out a post and say, it's been nice. Like, how did we get to that point?
That also makes me, you know, as I'm thinking about people leaving and statements and things like that, you know, WWE doesn't do a lot of send-offs. And the one that really raised my eyebrow was the one they did for John Moxley, right? Like they literally, they were public about, and he was public about, you know, he's not renewing his contract, he's ending in 3 months, and under normal circumstances they'd bury you, but they literally gave him a going away tour, and the house show was his final match, and they put that live on the WWE network as a Shield send off, and we wish you well. And so part of me wonders, you know, if those kinds of things are reserved for people who are, and I put this in air quotes, in good standing with the company, whatever that might mean, right?
Well, that
Right.
sales investment is huge for like the next 50 years. Like whatever they can pull from the memories, merchandise, anything. They got to keep that. Even the video packages. I would think that the company would want to keep that in solid standing
Mm-hmm.
for him.
So
But
we'll
in regards to Ronda, that I hope this isn't controversial, but like that WrestleMania main event doesn't happen without Ronda's name.
yeah, I'm not saying that it does, but I think the problem in terms of why she isn't remembered better is because when many would have thought she would have been the main draw for that main event, she wasn't. It was Becky. So that I think is what makes it hard when we're going back in the memory bank looking at, you know, her career in WWE, saying, okay, there's this moment, and then we're like,
Well,
I mean,
Which
there's
criminals we never got the true one-on-one between Becky and Ronda in
now
lieu of
that
everything that happened on social media.
right,
I think that's where the air kind of got deflated out of the balloon. We never got the true one-on-one from the social media barbs.
agreed.
Yeah, I think there's two things happening as far as like the wrestling purists. I would say that they would think that her run it was lackluster, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what she did was she ushered the mainstream media, the ESPNs and the CBSs, and she was on TV shows talking about WWE and stuff like that. I think people with the mainstream media are going to remember, like, oh well, they might even think she's still with WWE because they're not in the know of everything. So I think for mainstream media, she did that. Her name helped to bring the mainstream media folks in there. So I think that was all. I think that was the main reason for bringing her in.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think, based off, and I only met her for less than 10 minutes, but just based off of her personality, the character that you need to have in order to be a WWE superstar, to have the mic skills, to have all this other stuff. What she was giving to me was like introvert, do the job, knock somebody out, go home.
Mm-hmm.
And to really tap into that other character takes either a long time or a short time as far as how far you really want to go. And I think the people backstage didn't require her to do that. And so that's why it was kind of lackluster, opposed to saying, okay, you have certain skills, let's take you into let's tap into this and let's try a different character. Except they just said, you just be Rhonda, and that was who she was. So yeah, I think there'll be mentions, because I feel like there's different, if we were going to do, which is going to happen, an evolution of women's wrestling, her name will be talked about, because I feel like that was the beginning of that next level to where we are right now. Not her, like she started it, but that was kind of when things started. You're starting to see more women's matches and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the challenge here is she had 5 years in WWE, and I think her impact was most greatly felt in year 1. And I think that's where I think the challenge is, because we can't go back to this, that, and the other, because those interviews you talked about, she did in year 1.
Right.
Following that, she wasn't doing a bunch of interviews with those.
Well, was it 5 years or was it like 2 years? Because she was pregnant, right? You're including the 5 years that she's pregnant.
I guess the run was 5. She went away for a little bit. She went away after 35, and then came back. Was it 37, 38, 38, I think. I think it was 38 that she came back. So yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting. It was interesting. Well, with that said, we are in. It was interesting. We are obviously preparing for After Dark, which begins in almost 2.5 hours. So make sure you join us on Twitch for that. I think we started this by having you tell us how you can be reached. That's how this started.
Yeah, no, we can. Just find me on Twitter at says CWD_SAYS, on the gram at said is the answer. Check out my writing on dailyddt.com as well as www.talkpod.com. I do have another plug today. I did a podcast with a good friend of mine at Believe Podcast Networks called The Athlete Journey. So check that out. His name is Travis Reed. Go listen to The Athlete Journey and you'll see my episode on there talking about myself from my time as an athlete and my journey into journalism. So go give it a listen. Spotify, all the other streaming networks as well.
Nice.
Do you talk about Pound Town? No? Okay. I guess we'll talk about that.
Not talking about Pound Town on that podcast, but give my guy Travis a follow. Travis W. Reed on Instagram. Also a boxing aficionado. So I think we're going to start a boxing podcast really soon. But no, we saved the Pound Town for Thursday nights, apparently, since that's happening in Hollywood tomorrow. But yeah, I've said too much.
Well, I'm gonna defer to the boss lady to close us out. You could reach me, of course, at all things Bonnerfied across the socials. You can check out my commentary work with Southern Honor and IWE on IWTV. You can check out my work with Battle Slam on Fight TV. You can check out my work with the Nightmare Factory on YouTube. And again, really excited about Student Showcase 11, which will be coming to YouTube very, very soon. Some great talent there. And some more things are in the works. We'll be telling you about them, I'm sure, in the weeks and days to come. But yeah, all things WWT. And make sure you are scanning that cute little QR code at the upper right-hand corner for all of the latest and greatest merch from all things WWT.
All the shirts have been updated, including new shirts. If you were here on Monday, that shirt is now up there as well.
Wow.
Yeah, all the shirts are updated. Go and check that out. There's even a discount code as well. So yeah, I think you just pulled it up. So that shirt, Women's World Order, is up. You can order it. So super stoked. So all that's there. And then, like I said, get to tomorrow. Definitely you can start ahead. So you make sure you're watching, you're following Women's Wrestling Talk at WWTalkPod.com. Follow Pound Town Wrestling across all platforms, and then tag 3 friends. Once you do that, if you want, like, yo, TK, I really want these pay-per-view. I want to see this pay-per-view Pound Town Wrestling. Jess, you can either DM me just that. Don't DM me any crazy stuff. DM me, or you can even tag me, and I'll put your name in the list, and we'll announce the winner next Thursday, who will get the code for Pound Town Wrestling's pay-per-view. So you can check all of that out. But
this is where you DM TK crazy stuff for tonight.
Nah, don't do
Right.
that.
We need content for tonight. So DM some crazy stuff so we can talk about it.
Well, you know what? You can DM me questions. If you're like, yo, I might not be able to make it. Well, you won't even see the show, but yo, I might not even make it, but I have some questions. You could DM some questions to myself and or Professor, even though he's not going to be on, he's going to be watching. So you can DM questions to us ahead of the show, WWT After Dark. We just gonna be sipping some things. We're just gonna be talking stuff. We're gonna be talking all sorts of things from, of course, the jump off will be wrestling, but it might go all over the place. I might give some secrets that I've been holding on to for years. So if you ask the right question, you might get those answers. But other than that, definitely check out WWTalkPod.com. We dropped the interview with Freya the Slayer. Yeah, disclaimer. Yes, for real. We dropped the interview with Freya the Slayer. That came out last week, where she's talking about wrestlers. We also have a wrestlers recap articles on there done by Candace that you can check out. We also dropped the interview with Ariane Andrew, where she's talking about Total Divas. I pitched the whole Total Divas reunion. And for y'all don't know, like, I do this entertainment thing for like a living, for real. So look, I might try to make some calls and like let's see it. So there's that as well. And we have so many other interviews that are going to be dropping out throughout the next couple of weeks. So definitely keep it locked to www.talkpod.com. And you can follow me on everything at TK Trinidad. But yeah, tune in tonight. I don't know what I think I have some vodka. So tune in tonight. It's going to be popping. Wow. Professor's going to be like, I already know in the WhatsApp. Professor's going to be like, it's gonna be fun, y'all. It's gonna be fun. I'm sure, Black people don't blush, but I'm pretty sure he said he's gonna be blushing, and I'm
already blushing.
Too dark to blush, but it be happening.
and Booney's gonna be just losing his ish. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be wild, and we might have some drop-ins. So other than that, thank you guys for joining. Keep it locked to tonight. Keep it locked to tomorrow. Definitely check out the lives, the shorts, all that stuff. We'll be posting some stuff from Pound Town Wrestling. And yeah, and then after shows, there's some more post shows. New post shows are going to be coming in the next couple of weeks as well. I think that's it. And scan the QR code. Till next time, guys. Let me get this video ready because I think you guys might think I've been drinking, but I'm not. I'm just really tired. Till next time, guys. Ciao.
Women's wrestling.